mean, it's just like defensive druid cards in cycle, and then like one ultimate infestation.
Defensive cards in cycle. That's every druid deck.
Exactly. Now, we'll talk about that matchup later. I'm sure Monsanto would be very curious about how to go up against it. You can see the Mage and the Hunter band. A lot of respect for the Murloc Mage. Envoy got a lot of card draw. In fact, all of his cards draw a card. So I think he is going to be A-okay on finishing the quests. It's all about whether or not he can do it in time before Monsanto assembles his Exodia combos with Malygos. Mimic Pod, fantastic for completing the quest, assuming he lands on a minion. Oh, yeah, that is interesting.
That's real good because, especially later in the game, you play Sonya, and you want to kill a Sonya, but the Sonya gives them another Sonya, and so it's kind of just infinite. It's just like almost a impossible board to deal with unless you are able to kill them simultaneously with like a Malygos swipe.
Right.
But I'm looking at the rest of Envoy's lineup right now, and I can easily see why he banned the Murloc Mage. It's a very slow, methodical lineup that is probably going to struggle, pretty heavily against aggro, especially one as aggressive as the Murloc Mage. So as much as my heart died a little bit, not being able to see it on the desk, I can very understand why he did that.
Yeah, I would say Cube Warlock, Quest Rogue, and Death Rattle Hunter all have one weakness, which is Fireball to the face. And I think, banning that is definitely something worth doing for Envoy's side. Monsanto picks up Wild Growth. Was thinking about, what am I even ramping to, for example? Like, next turn I'm not really doing much. Probably even just Branching Paths. Might be worth holding on to Wild Growth in case I got Nourished, but I think this is an investment for the future because he might need Branching Paths to do other things besides draw cards if he ends up picking up something else.
Yeah, every once in a while you get those unorthodox wins where the Maladruid obviously wants to do the play where, they play Malygos, they pop the Twig, they do a bunch of damage all at once, but that's not always an option. And so sometimes you get those wins where you make a wide spreading board and it sticks, and then you double Branching Paths for lethal. And so that happens every once in a while, but Branching Paths being kind of the only option for a play right now, that's kind of not something I expect to happen with how slow this matchup's going to go.
Yeah, I don't know how much of a threat the Novice Engineers are. I don't think it's worth swiping because, well, one, you're not really doing anything else this turn, and it doesn't accelerate your game plan. Like, you have to figure out a way to beat Quest Rogue because they're, especially with a hand like this, with double Novice Engineer, Mimic Pod, it almost feels like they're going to guarantee get the quest done. Mm-hmm. So it's all about, can you answer that? Can you, get your Malygos and Twig combos, or maybe you floop Malygos to follow up for a swipe? These are the things on Monsanto's mind. So it looks like he's going for that Branching Paths.
To gain armor.
Okay. So he wants to play it into this Ultimate Infestation, and he needs to free up his hand space.
I understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, he is only on 6 mana, and I don't see any other ramp cards in his hand, so he is planning very far ahead if that is his overall game plan.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of personally surprised just because we're talking his hands, Arcane Tyrant, Faceless Manipulator, Malygos. He doesn't really have any plays, and so at least for another 4 turns. And so in the meantime, Quest Rogue's just gonna draw a whole bunch, play a whole lot of cards, and get this quest done. And Monsanto's going to have an answer. And Ultimate Infestation, while good, can't answer a 4/4 force.
Yeah. Youthful Brewmaster on Glacial Shard. Oh, on Novice Engineer. Okay, so I think Glacial Shard is a really underrated card in this matchup, largely because you can stop your opponent from getting Twig of the World Tree snapped. You can basically keep freezing them over and over. But one thing that I think Envoy maybe has picked up is that his best path to completing the quest right now is actually Novice Engineer, because he has 2 of them already in the bank. And he has a Prep Vanish, and he also has another Youthful Brewmaster. So that should be just ways to get the quest done. And by constantly having card draw, you'll never run out of resources as the Quest Rogue.
But as the Quest Rogue, you got to be careful when you're completing the quest with that Novice Engineer, especially when your hand is as full as it is, just because there is a good chance that you're going to have the quest completed or the option to complete the quest, but by completing the quest, you're going to mill the quest. And so he's going to have to dump his hand eventually.
Yeah,
we've all done it once. Don't lie. We've all been there.
Monsanto has the ability to also kill off this 2-1 if he doesn't play Malfurion the Pestilent. It feels really bad to leave the Glacial Shard up with the threat of a bounce, but your opponent's also bouncing the Novice Engineer, so it's not like they'll use it for quest completion. And also, it's not like you have to Twig of the World Tree, so I don't think it's as big of a deal. Another thing, too, to note is that Monsanto is playing the newly teched version of Malagos Druid that has cut Alex Straza in favor of Faceless Manipulator. And I think that's largely just a nod to pushing more into the combo route as opposed to an Alex setup. You can Faceless like a Malagos, or you can Faceless your Lich King, and this is something that is perceived to be greedy, but if you're only cutting Alex Straza, I feel like it functions very similarly while giving you more of adaptive game plan, which I like, because I find Alex a little bit rigid sometimes.
Yeah, and Faceless Manipulator also has the added benefit of when it gets hit by the Florist, discounted, it keeps the discount no matter what you're playing it on, as opposed to the Forbiddeness Flute, which is going to lose the discount as soon as it transforms into another minion.
Ooh, this is just like, what is going on? Bounce after bounce after bounce. I mean, he could finish the quest by just keep playing his Youthful Brewmasters. This is like... When Quest Rogue was first revealed, people were like joking about specifically this combo, which is like playing Brewmasters or Gadgeted Ferrymen onto each other, not recognizing how easy it was to finish, because there was only 4 at the time, and not recognizing how insane charging 5/5s or Stone Tusk bore.
So it's like, yeah, you're not getting any, technically you're not getting any value, quote unquote, from your other battle cries, but you know what the best value is? Getting this quest done. And when you have double Sonya, you got the Vanish, you have the Elven Minstrel, value is not going to be an issue this matchup. And so we're just trying to get it done as quickly as possible. We thought he was going to do it with the Novice Engineer. We decided, why fill up my hand? I got all I need right here.
Yeah, exactly. I think Monsanto's hope is that Envoy, when he finishes the quest, doesn't have much ways to oppress the board. Maybe fill with like double Vanish or other ways that doesn't exactly help him. But there's just a lot of good stuff inside Envoy's hand with double Sonya, 2 Vicious Scalehides, so that way he can be at 30 life. And that's going to be really crucial too, because let's say Monsanto gets the ideal double Malagos. Without Twig, Monsanto can't kill in 1 turn. He would have to have like that extra mana for Swipe, for example, to add to it.
Or the Forbiddeness Floop in hand. Try to finish it off next turn after the Malagos would probably die. Here's another thing that we weren't really talking about is he has the prep quest, but he's deciding whether it's even correct to play it just because he's going to have an awkward mana total left over. And so he's only going to be able to play a 2-drop. And so I think he was deciding whether he wanted to forego the extra minion this turn in favor of having a discounted Vanish later on.
Oh my. Dream Petal Florist, that's something that I forgot to also mention too. It's like that is another way you can squeeze in really big swings.
I think the swing turn's definitely going to be the UI Arcane Tyrant just because this is what he's been working for ever since, turn 6.
That's right.
And it's pretty good. He's not going to mill anything. He's going to kill a minion, draw a whole bunch of cards, and he can always flourish next turn. There's the Forbiddeness Flip as well.
And another Arcane Tyrant, which is good to dump.
I have 4 4s of my own, Quest Rogue. He can even play a 3rd if he really wanted to. I think the advantage of playing the 3rd is that it's impossible to low roll on the Florist.
Yeah, exactly. You still get the double Malagos effect.
But at the same time, it's, sometimes you just want to play. Maybe he was thinking he wants to just play the Malagos alone and then follow that up with a Forbiddeness Flute Faceless Manipulator. But it looks so good right now.
I like it. And also, if Envoy doesn't have that Vanish or a way to clear the board, it's going to be tough. But Envoy does with Sonya and Vicious Scalehides.
Come, try your
Clear up everything real nice and tidy. Opting not to go for the Vanish, which I like a lot just because when you can kill stuff with minions, you should probably do it with the minions, especially when you have Sonya as well. Vanish is there's kind of a divide in the competitive community over what the role of Vanish is. Some people consider it a way to finish the quest. Other people consider it one of the most offensive tools in the entire deck in order to get a big Vanish off and then play all your charges again. And so it's just a matter of play style, but I think Envoy is of the latter opinion where he wants to use it as offensively as possible. And when you have Sonya, Vicious Scalehide, he's going to use that rather than the Vanish.
So Dream Petal Florist and Naturalize and Hero Power is the first thing I was thinking about, because obviously you want to set up a combo. You're at 63 life, so you have a lot of time to play with. And the truth is, it doesn't matter how many copies of things like Wax Elemental get into Envoy's hand, because it really just comes down to whether or not Monsanto can kill in one turn. With Malagos discounted by 7, that means you can fit in 2 swipes and a Moonfire. That is the ideal setup. Spreading Plague is also not bad to stall for a turn here for Monsanto.
Another thing we haven't really talked about is how much armor Monsanto's gained this
Right,
game.
it's 71.
It's 71, and that goes all the way back to that branching pass on turn 4. He used it for armor. He didn't draw, just to play up to that UI, and it's paying off. Even if Envoy had a full board of 4/4s, that's only 28 damage a turn. He could, in theory, live for 3 full turns off a full board of 4/4s.
Oh, I like this. Monsanto choosing to Faceless because he wants to guarantee the Malagos. And I mean, with double swipe and double Moonfire, that's 30 damage. 2 swipes is 18, plus the 2 6 damage Moonfires. So recognizing that he doesn't need anything beyond the 30 life, what it does come down to is if Envoy can get Valera the Hollow for that 5 extra armor.
I think, is there anything in Monsanto's deck that he could technically draw to ruin the Malagos play?
Well, I mean, I think if I'm Envoy, I know exactly what's happening. He played his Flabindus Floop. He played his Faceless Manipulator. It's very clear he's setting up Dream Petal Floors and Malagos from my perspective. I need to go, as in I need to rush down my opponent as best as I can. And I think if I'm Envoy too, having a taunt can be really important to deny the hero power from maybe whittling down Valera the Hollow. Maximum pressure.
He's got a lot of room to go. So much armor left to go. Monsanto can still draw the Lich King to mess up the Florist.
Wow, I mean, I consider, if I'm Envoy too, maybe even playing or finding a way to get better card draw into my hands, so that way I can draw closer to Valera. I am so scared of Dream Petal Florist. But I mean, this is the scenario that Monsanto set up.
Just 1 card short.
Yeah. The problem too is that if Monsanto plays like Spreading Plague, he ends up setting himself up for a bad Vanish scenario where he might burn that second Moonfire. So he has to not play that.
Yes. It's tough overall. Just the second Sonya in the hand is just like probably not going to do a whole lot this game. We have Vicious Scalehide, which can't go face. We have Glacial Shard that is not really important because he doesn't have a twig that he's trying to get down. Zola is good value, but we're trying to kill our opponent. We're not trying to get value.
Would you be in favor of naturalizing a non-Sonya minion so that way you decrease the chances of Envoy drawing into Valera the Hollow?
He is at 8.
Okay, he's just going to I was thinking, like, if you naturalize the Wax Elemental, you naturally give Envoy 1 extra card that isn't Valera.
Lab Recruiters as well. I'm trying to think, in what order does the effect happen? Would the Sonya returning it to the hand happen before he drew? Or does the naturalize effect finish before the Sonya?
Yeah, that's a good question.
But either way, he was going to mill at least 1, if not 2. And with how much Envoy has drawn this game, I think statistically it was not going to be uncommon to burn that Valera.
Envoy going as much pressure as possible.
Slowly chipping away at that armor.
Yeah,
down to 45.
Lab Recruiter is actually a liability because I think Envoy, again, is very cognizant that his last line of defense is the Valera the Hollow for that extra life for 5 armor. And also, this is one of those scenarios where things like, Crystallizer really come into play, getting that extra armor. Not that you would put Crystallizer in Quest Rogue, but just to show you about how the importance of that 5 armor might be in the late stages of the game against combo decks.
Alright, Malagos at 2. He still has 3 or 4 turns before he's worried about dying. And even if he were to get the Spreading Plague vanished, his only concern would be the mill of the...
That's a big pick.
Yeah, second Moonfire, but with the Nourish draw, I don't think Spreading Plague is even a concern. I want to draw 3. I want to find that second Moonfire. I want to kill this Questrogue.
Yeah, Spreading Plague is very dicey because of that Vanish possibility. Second
There it
Moonfire.
We can coin
Oh.
or innervate the Spreading Plague just to guarantee that we're not dead to any sort of Vanish shenanigans, and then just pop off next turn.
I mean, even a full board of Chargers twice over is, what, 28-56? Yeah, you could die because you're at 44.
Yeah. And then that's not including stuff like any potential Shadow Steps picked up as well.
Yeah. Actually, I think I like the Innervate Spreading Plague scenario because then your opponent has to vanish, and then their max damage is 29 because they assume they get 7 Chargers.
And at the same time, at this point in the game, you have your combo. When are we using Innervate?
It has to be Valera.
Yep.
But the one thing about this is Envoy still could get that Valera and continue this game.
There it is.
Oh,
yeah.
Ooh.
That's the good stuff.
Yeah. It's not over, though, because Valera gives you stealth for 1 turn.
Mm-hmm. And he still has the Malfurion hero power to push through that armor.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't Valera and Phantom Knives this turn. So if he is going to Valera, he can't clear off all these minions.
Yeah.
Same time, Monsanto has used both branching paths, and Savage Roar is not in the deck. So any sort of crazy burst from minions is probably not on Envoy's mind right now.
And I mean, Envoy was so deep into his deck, too. I mean, look at how much card draw he's had this game.
Yeah, I think there's only like
It was
5-6 cards left in the deck.
Felt inevitable to get it. Also, Envoy choosing not to attack before.
I don't think it matters too much at this point. I think
Oh, what? Another Spreading Plague? So he can kill... Okay, hold on. How do you do this? So you want to kill off the Wax Elemental so that way you can get past the 5 armor.
yes.
Because if the Wax Elementals are on the board, you're not going to be able to hero power your opponent's life total down.
We have the Spellstone that has yet to be upgraded. So we can armor up from the hero power. He's going to draw first. There's the Lich King. Potentially pick up more burst with like a Death and Decay or a Death Coil.
Right.
We also haven't considered the fact that Monsanto has reach in the form of Fatigue.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that he can consider doing as well is doing the. Actually, I'm trying to map this out in my head because like, can he set up a scenario where he deals 30 with Malagos and then uses like Ultimate Infestation for the lethal?
He does have the Vicious Scalehide in hand, and so if we were to put him down to 5, I think he would be able to heal outside the range, but at the same time, like I said, Fatigue is going to start to set in, and I think if he can combo, say, 2 or 3 damage of Fatigue along with that UI, I think he's going to get there.
I mean, there's a lot of Chargers coming up.
There's the Fan of Knives, and it looks really nice right now, but do you want to play it?
I think I want to push damage. I really do. I mean, Envoy, as long as he's not 2 cards left in the deck, okay, then he's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
If he has 3 or more remaining, he should be doing this.
Yeah, so 3 deck hands on the field right now. He can prep Vanish next turn and bring them all back to push even more damage.
Right.
Glacial Shard can freeze the face
I like
if that's
the
a
Glacial
concern.
Shard freeze.
What is he thinking about right now? What is he trying to play around? He has the Lab Recruiter as well.
He's
And
thinking
so
about Spreading Plague number 2. How do I deal with that? And I like Lab Recruiter onto the South Sea deckhand.
Here's the thing. Spreading Plague, if we were to banish it and play 5 deckhands with the Valera extra copy and the Shadow Step, that is only going to be 20 damage.
Well, don't really want Glacial Shard the opponent so they can't attack us. Like, in this scenario, if Monsanto Spreading Plagues and attacks the face... Oh, no, he's still okay. He's still okay. Because he still needs 2 turns to get this off.
He could honestly just rip the Malagos right now and force his opponent to heal.
Yeah, but that could be too all in as well because
Yeah.
of the possibility. Like, you don't want any minion on the board for Vicious Scalehide.
I think this comes down to how well is Monsanto's memory, because Envoy played the non-Mimic Pod Sonya Shadow Dancer, and so if Monsanto's hand tracking correctly, he knows that there is another Sonya Shadow Dancer in the hand. And so I think if he knows that, he's not going to play the Malagos, because then he can't get Sonya Shadow Dancered into Vicious Scalehide and heal back up.
Yeah, and another problem too, is he going to die if he just plays Spreading Plague and attacks the face?
My turn is not.
What if he does something super crazy and like UIs the face right now? Is he just dead? I think so, yeah.
That would be, so there's...
Yeah, there's too much
24,
power on
yeah,
the board. And
there's
he's also
way too
taking,
much.
he might be taking fatigue damage at that point. I can't see how many cards remaining in the deck.
Looks like about 4 or 5, so I think he would start taking 1 or 2 from Fatigue. That with the Vanish, going to be just more than enough to finish him off, so this is, I think, the only play that works out. Bandit Knife's already used, and so he's going to have to go through this through Brute Force or with the Vanish. 2 off still with the Malagos combo.
Prep Banish. And then 7 minions? Does he have 7 chargers?
Does he know what's coming back to the
right,
hand?
the order of which
Yeah.
it matters too.
Because he's only getting 1 back.
1, 2, 3, 4. No, it's not enough. He needed every single minion played to be a charger to win this game.
Yeah. So he
Right
has the-
here.
So he has the Zola, he has the Shadow Stab.
It's close.
So close.
I mean, you look at the fact that Monsanto invested his branching pass into 12 armor gain. That has paid off huge. Also, Monsanto's about to burn another card.
But at the same time, Envoy just used all his charges. There is no more left in the hand. And so with the Malagos swipe right now, Envoy does not have a way to kill Monsanto.
Well, he does with Sonya number 2.
Well, he can heal back up, but he doesn't
Right.
have a way to like finish off the game.
But then Monsanto doesn't have a way to finish the game.
Too many layers to that.
My thoughts are plagued.
Well, I think Monsanto has recognized that he might be checkmated. I don't see a good way for him to deal with this, because if he commits Malagos, like, first of all, he has to adjust his board state. And the problem is he also knows that Vicious Scalehides are in the hand, and if he's also being good enough at hand tracking, he should recognize that Sonya Shadow Dancer number 2 is in the hand as well. This is looking bad. I think he has to Desperation clear
Yeah.
and hope that Lich King can carry the game. Oh, wait.
Oh, he has the Beetles.
This is interesting.
Right, he doesn't have to use the second swipe. Oh, wow. This is a play we didn't even think about, and this is incredible.
Yeah, you can't actually kill off the Scalehides. Oh, hold on. Sousy Deckhand draw, though, is pretty big, potentially.
So,
Yeah, you can.
While-
You should be
yeah.
able to get through it now.
I was going to say, while we can't kill off the Scalehides, we do have other ways of copying them. So they still have the Zola, we still have the Valera hero power as well. And so even if he couldn't kill off the Scalehide, there's still plenty of stuff to deal
Well,
with.
specifically, it's the fact that Sousy Deckhand allows him to get through here. And is that lethal? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
one of these is going to go through. Yeah, that's just
Exactly.
lethal.
Envoy able to pick up just enough to finish it off. What a game, back and forth.
I
know-
feel like we were casting this series forever. That was just game 1.
Yeah, it was
That
just the
was
first
long.
game. The thing about this setup, too, is that Monsanto was playing with his hand kind of face up. And Envoy needed that Valir to stay alive, but more importantly, Monsanto gave full information of what Envoy needed to play around. Granted, I feel like with enough time, Envoy would have just figured it out anyways. It's like, okay, cool, yeah, sure. I only need to survive 30 points damage. But without Twig of the World Tree, without the ability to put your opponent down to 30, Monsanto ended up being just a couple of damage off or being one turn away. And that's a game 1 victory for the Quest Rogue. And there you go. Quest Rogue's still good.
Still good. And I'm looking at the rest of Brady's line, or Brady. I shared a room with him, so I called him Brady. Envoy, as the rest of you know him. I'm looking at the rest of his lineup, and I'm just wondering like how he's going to do against that Mali Druid, because we got the Quest Rogue out of the way. But he has the Death Rattle Hunter, and we have the Q Block. And Q Block versus Mali Druid is not a matchup I have seen for quite some time. And I'm just wondering how it's going to pan out with all the new cards.
Well, I mean, I feel like Cube Warlock tends to struggle on the ladder largely because Druid has just insane draws and it's a little bit easier to pilot. Cube Lock can falter very easily if you like mess up certain things. Versus Malagos Druid, I feel like is fairly forgiving compared to Cube Lock. I mean, both decks have their nuances and both decks are, in my opinion, pretty high skill cap. But I think Druid is a little bit more obvious on what you want to do. Cube is only obvious in one way, which is play Skull of the Minari and then try to win from there. We're not going to see that, though. Monsanto has his own rogue deck, but I believe it is an odd rogue that has a lot more aggression tuned into it, or rather, just like more of the traditional tech choices that we've come to expect. Let me pull it up here 1 second.
Okay. Oh, we don't have it.
Oh, we don't. We have two of the same.
We have Hunter twice.
Okay, here, I'll show you.
But at the same time, we do get to see Envoy's Mechathune Druid, which I'm super excited to see because this is a deck that he was trying to convince me of the entire weekend, saying it's just good. And I'm even though he is undefeated so far, 3-0, I'm still not a believer. I need to see it with my own eyes because this was kind of when Mechathune was first announced. It was just kind of the meme deck everyone played on day one. Then kind of came back with a little bit of a resurgence once the deck got more refined. But at the same time, he's 3-0 in a Swiss bracket, and that has to count for something.
Yeah, assuming it's not banned every single time. I mean, even then, I think that's a big win in Envoy's book.
Yeah, that's a W for the Mechathune in my book, yeah.
So, Odd Rogue has traditionally struggled against defensive Druid decks because Druid is so good at dealing with their boards when you have things like Spreading Plague against Giggling Inventor. However, that dynamic has changed significantly. Instead of having Giggling Inventor and Blood Knight, which is a lot worse against Spreading Plague and naturalizes with Spellstones, you see that Monsanto instead has Blink Fox and Cobalt Scalebane. These are like the more traditional threats that the Odd Rogue was playing back in the Witchwood meta. And I think that's going to be playing to Monsanto's benefit, especially if this Vicious Fledgling goes unchecked here. This is a really good opportunity for Monsanto to get far ahead of his opponent.
Yeah, Cobalt Scalebane is definitely one of those weird cards because it had a huge resurgence back when Raza Priest was a tier 1 deck because it lived through Dragonfire Potion. And now it kind of fell off to kind of stopped getting played because it was just kind of too slow and there were just better 5-drops because it was competing with stuff like Giggling Inventor. But now with the Giggling Inventor nerf, it's making a resurgence. But I've seen it quite a few times today where sometimes it's made a Dire Mole an impossible killing machine, and other times it's just sat in the hand being unplayable. And so it's been very hit or miss this tournament.
This Druid deck has a lot more removal tools than the other Druids you've come to expect because of the double Wrath that's included. Naturalize. I mean, it's not pretty, but it's something.
It'll do.
You just need to not take pressure. And I think if your Vicious Fledgling is going to get removed, that's like the second best option. Actually, I think that is the best option because you get to draw cards and look, you picked up a Vicious Fledgling number 2.
Yeah, another Vicious Fledgling that he does not have an answer for. He has the Oaken Summons, which is, kind of a pseudo-answer, but Vilespine's in the hand. Void Ripper if he even wanted to, really.
Well,
even the Myra's picked up as well.
The Oaken Summons is fairly impactful because of the fact that Monsanto uses coins, so Vilespine Slayer is not nearly as strong. It just so happened that Monsanto also has Southsea Deckhand and Deadly Poison. So that is 6 damage that he can use to push through.
You could also decide to go with the Cold Blood as well if you wanted to do that instead of the Deadly Poison. I think he probably wants to save the Cold Blood for that final bit of push with the Leroy. But it could definitely go either way. I don't think Envoy is running any sort of weapon removal, so I don't think he's worried about anything like a Gluttonous Ooze to gain him a bunch of armor. So I think Deadly Poison is probably what he's going to go with.
Yeah, I just want Vicious Fledgling to connect to face. That's all. If I'm the Odd Rogue player, all I care about is getting that pressure. And more importantly, you can get that Vicious Fledgling to stay alive through stealth, can't be targeted, plus health.
Yeah, there are a lot of good options against Druid especially.
Cold Blood's going to hit extra hard next turn.
Let's see what he gets. No Wind Fury, because he's still deciding. But there's so many good options against Druid, like you were talking about. The can't be targeted is really good against Druid.
Yeah.
Even +1/+1 is actually fairly good against Druid because the only answer is really Swipe, and the 2 Wraths aren't going to be able to get there.
Yeah, your opponent has already shown you they don't have Swipe.
There it is.
Yep.
That's real good. Can't naturalize it.
That Vicious Fledgling is pretty good with cannot be targeted adapt.
Stick around for quite a while. Even if you put something in the way.
Of course, the double-edged sword of it is that he can't cold blood his own Vicious Fledgling.
Unfortunate. It's not the unicorn card that can be targeted only by you. It counts for everybody. So no cold blood pressure, but at the same time, if you hit the Wind Fury, that's more of a deal. But
that Scalebane is so nuts, especially if it hits Wind Fury. Any kind of stat buff here would be massive, or Divine Shield, or something to keep protecting that Vicious Scale Hide.
Well, we still have the 4/1 dagger as well to kill the Arcane Tyrant.
Right, but this Scalebane just adds
so much
crazy pressure. And Envoy, does he have Innervate? He needs Innervate with Malfurion the Pestilent Coin Hero Power. And he doesn't get it.
Wrath is not good enough. Malfurion's going to make 2 1/5 taunts, and that is going to do a whole lot of nothing. Scalehide can push through 1. Vicious Fledgling can push through 1, and then swing again to hit face. If you really wanted to, he could even Vile Spine Slayer one of them and push 18 to the face.
I am so torn on his Naturalize on this 5/5 because the 5/5 challenges the Beetles really easily. And if your opponent has a single Vile Spine Slayer, he's connecting for 18. So I am really tempted to Naturalize here.
My thoughts are plain.
From Monsanto's side as well, it's kind of awkward just because you have the Myers in hand, and so that's just going to be longer before you can play that.
Yeah.
But there, at the same time, it's not really the worst problem to have as the rogue. It's like, oh, my hand's too full, so I can't play Myra's. Fungal Mancer's picked up off the top as well if we wanted to buff the Vicious Fledgling outside of the hero power range.
Well, there's this like funny play where you can Void Ripper and SI, like... So actually what you can do is you can attack with a 1/5 and then Void Ripper and then SI, so that way you have a 2/9 Fledgling. And that thing is absolutely never dying, ever.
Yeah, it can't be targeted as well. And so you're going to have to brute force it, and the Druid's never going to get enough damage on board. That's like the Sargoth card. So the big ol' can't be targeted.
I think I like that the most as opposed to just trying to preserve the 3 attack on the Vicious Fledgling, because I think what's important is you have board presence turn after turn.
At the same time, though, Vile Spine Slayer, trying to think what it's actually going to kill in this deck that's going to be of note.
Most likely the Ironwood Golem.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the only thing left, and unfortunately for Envoy, that looks like it's going to be his only play next turn. Comboing that with the Wrath. Woo! 5/9 can't be targeted Wind Fury.
Yeah.
For 3 mana.
I mean, before Envoy had this like Hail Mary attempt of hero powering down the Fledgling at 3 health, but now there's just no chance. I mean, just look at him. He's just like, how do I beat this thing? And the answer is you kind of don't.
He's just going to stay around till the end of time. Thankfully, he killed off other parts of the board, so the Fungal Mancer is going to be slightly less effective, but I see a Deckhand, I see a Cold Blood, and I see a Vile Spine. I just want power push and damage.
I like Vile Spine here. The Cold Blood doesn't really do much, unfortunately. You can't put on your Vicious Fledgling.
Put it on the Deckhand that you got to play, though.
Sure.
Because you have to activate the Vile Spine somehow.
Well, you just play Deckhand and then Vile Spine, I think, is good enough. You can...
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Is there a Void Ripper play? So, okay, let's Void Ripper. And then Dagger and Southsea. No, I'm completely serious here. And then you can hit for 18.
Ooh. Like it. So many Void Rippers this game.
I mean, this is the first play that I thought of, the Southsea and Vile Spine, but it's worth thinking about if you want to do the Void Ripper play just for max damage.
I think that for style points especially. But I think at this point, Monsanto, no matter what he goes for, is just going to be game over.
Yeah.
UI the Vile Spine Slayer, and you're going to draw a whole bunch of cards that can't kill this Vicious Fledgling.
No, you're just dead to the Void Ripper.
That
He's at
too.
24. You attack with the 2 attack minion, and then you flipped for 22. Vicious Fledgling is going to solo Envoy's Mech-Cthulhu Druid deck, but the good news is we get to see this deck again.
really unfortunate for Envoy, too, because he recognizes how much of a liability Vicious Fledgling is, which is why he naturalized the one he played on turn 2, only to have another one come down. And he didn't get any of his wrath. He didn't have a sword.
People who play Dragon Ball will understand. Bardock's like the druid of Dragon Ball fighters, if you will.
If Druid spun a lot.
Oh, so you actually play that game, so you know?
I've put about 65 hours into it, and I put just enough to know I am trash at fighting games.
Me too. I put hundreds of hours in that game, and I'm still trash at it. Now, onto a game that I'm also trash at. We have Cube Warlock up against Death Rattle Hunter. This is a matchup that can get out of hand for either player very quickly because of how easily it is to rack up threats. Mountain Giant and Cube with Faceless Manipulator is really powerful, and of course, Egg with any kind of way to activate it, and their own cubes is also really powerful. I'm looking at any specific text that might influence this matchup.
Spellbreaker is the one that catches my eye right now. Going to be able to silence that egg, prevent more 5/5s from coming out, which I think is one of the most mainstream ways that the Death Rattle Hunter wins this matchup. But Envoy, he's got the Mountain Giant. He's got a Faceless Manipulator, and so he's got part of the puzzle. But he's going to have to be able to apply enough pressure before Monsanto can get stuff like Spider Bomb. Tracking on turn 1 is going to be able to find probably a Hunter's Mark, another Death Rattle activation. There's just so many good things. It's just a matter of who can apply the pressure first, because we've talked about a lot this weekend is one of the downsides of Death Rattle Hunter is that once it's behind on board, it struggles to come back, and especially against a deck like Q-Block, which has such explosive amounts of pressure that it can add with Doom Guards coming out from Skull Minari, Faceless on Giants, Cubes on Giants. There's just so many things. And so, but Monsanto's starting off well enough as he can. With the Egg, he's got Playdead, he's got Cube, he has Spider Bomb. Yeah. This is a pretty good opening hand against Q-Block.
That's definitely what you want to see. And Envoy does have a pretty decent hand himself. Giant into Face Manipulator is what you want to see, but it's kind of what you're talking about. Spider Bomb can put throw a huge wrench into things. Yeah. It's most likely going to be a life tap here for Envoy, but that gives Monsanto the ability to set up this Egg.
You can even coin out the Playdead if you really wanted to. Prince Keleseth coming down just a turn too late. I don't think he wants to forego creating a 5/5. Maybe he wants to save the coin for Catherinia and is just going to Egg Playdead in the following turn to play around stuff like the Spellbreaker, which he knows Envoy has a 1 copy of. Or even just to play around Spellstone. Because even an unupgraded Spellstone might be worth just popping the Egg for.
Well, the Egg you can play and guarantee the Playdead the next turn.
Yeah.
Is something that's really powerful. In fact, by not playing the Egg, you increase your plays for the following turn. Because you can choose the Egg and Playdead. You can also choose the Spider Bomb Playdead, depending on if your opponent plays a threat. And you also get the Keleseth investment out of the way. So I think I like this the most. And, you know, it might not be worth very much, but it is the most power available to him that's not using the coin right now.
There's the Spellbreaker off the top that we were talking about. But, like you said, the Playdead's going to come down very likely the same turn the Death Rattle is, so he's going to get at least 1 guaranteed proc out of it before the Spellbreaker can come down.
Right. Now, does Monsanto want to use Spider Bomb here? I think you do, just because the threat of Faceless Manipulator is too high.
Yeah, there's just so many different things that can go wrong. Like you said, the Faceless Manipulator, there's Carnivorous Cube as well.
Well, the fact that this lines up really well for a Cube is so insane. Like, your opponent plays a big threat, then you can just Cube the Spider Bomb.
Go Doomsayer. Looking like going to be the only option. I don't think he wants to use a Spellbreaker on a Spider Bomb, just because there are a lot of much bigger targets, such as the Carnivorous Cube, that he's going to want to use it on later. Because the more we can deny stuff like the Witchwood Grizzly coming out as a 3/12, the better the Q-Block is going to fare. Because even though the Q-Block can summon giant minions of its own with the Void Lords and the Doom Guards, Death Rattle Hunter has even bigger minions.
Doomsayer is just like a big liability in any matchup that involves Carnivorous Cube, though, because you could end up helping your opponent a lot. You play Doomsayer, they cube like a 5/5, and congrats, you've increased the power of the board. Oh, that is a nasty minion to pick up here for Monsanto, because Houndmaster Shaw threatens so much on the following turn, and your opponent just uses Spellstone. Turn 6 with is often pretty awkward for the Cube Warlock because they don't have that ability to kill the possessed lackey. And that might give you an ability to respond to your opponent.
Yeah, Doomsayer is just one of those cards that even back in the days of when everyone had to know the Cube Lock mirror to stay competitive, Doomsayer was just one of those cards where it's, oh, I want to, you know, absorb 8 damage because my opponent has a Mountain Giant. Yeah. And they just cube it. And so Doomsayer, like you said, can be often more of a liability than an asset. But Shaw coming down, not a whole lot of minions on Envoy's side that's going to help rush into, but that's still just a 4/7, and Envoy is not amounting any pressure anytime soon. Lackey.
Yeah, Envoy's deck. Oh, yeah, sorry. Possessed Lackey comes.
That's about it. That's Lackey. That's all I got.
I was going to take a second to talk about Envoy's deck list. He has 2 Faceless Manipulators, a Tainted Zealot, and 2 Shroom Brewers. So it's a little fusion of a control Warlock element with like a bunch of heals of Shroom Brewers. He's got like the greed package with Faceless Manipulator, but instead of having Prince Tal'Daram, chooses like Tainted Zealot. It's a little bit of nod to like the even Warlock tech that people used to run to have better Defiles, have better Hellfires. And so Envoy's kind of split the difference and like has better combo against control, but has better AoE clear with like Tainted Zealot and Shroom Brewers against aggro. So it's an interesting nod to both sides of the coin. It does, I think, make his mid-range game a lot weaker. It's like to try to play on curve in case he just needs to like get minion presence out. Like, for example, I don't even believe he has a Lord Godfrey in his deck.
I do not see one, no.
So yeah, it's certainly interesting to see how he chose to tech his deck.
Yeah, also Tainted Zealot, I think he came into this tournament knowing that Quest Rogue is still probably just a good deck, and with the Tainted Zealot you get that extra 2 damage.
Yeah.
It can really help with the Defile.
Or
and the
Hellfire.
Hellfire just clears board usually, unless there's a Divine Shield in the way. But the Lackey doing work, even though it's 6 mana, still summons Void Lord all the same.
This is what Envoy likes to see, though. I mean, he has a Faceless that he can pop. He has a Spellbreaker as well. Like, these are like... So this is one of the interesting things about Cube Warlock, is when you go up against other Cube decks, you have such a variety of plays open. I think if I'm Envoy, this is definitely a play that you liked because you want to shut down the Houndmaster Shaw. But it's also worth evaluating if Faceless Manipulator was worth doing anything.
Yeah, I would say Cube Lock definitely up there in terms of skill. Is just there's so many different decisions to make every single turn, and every single decision adds up to the end game where either you got there or you didn't. And when you get Skull off the top,
this is
Void Lord in hand.
This is so interesting, like, because of the idea of like Faceless Manipulators and other things like that.
The Faceless Manipulators also, while you get a copy of your own Doom Guards and Void Lords, you also just get a copy of your opponent's stuff as well. And when they're as powerful as what comes in the Death Rattle Hunter package, that can sometimes be a lot of damage. I wouldn't be surprised if we copy the King Crush. Trade it in. We use the 1 Spellbreaker, so the Katharina's sticking around, but
yeah,
we don't have any beasts of our own to summon.
How many cubes have been played? Is it just 1? It's because the threat of a cube, like Terror Scale Stalker or Play Dead, is what's really scary. Oh, he's just going to go ahead and invest it into there. That's fine, I guess. That makes sense. You're still willingly taking on a ton of damage. And also the sequencing. The sequencing. He plays Skull first before Doomsayer. Envoy recognized that as potentially a catastrophic error if it ends up blowing up in his face. Now, Monsanto might just kill the Doomsayer. So Envoy's like, okay, please kill my Doomsayer. Please kill my Doomsayer. But, yeah, that is not what you want to be seeing if you're in Envoy shoes.
So there was that mistake, and then there's also the 2 Terror Scale Stalkers in hand, and so there's potential to get a whole lot of damage out of the hand, or out of the deck, because King Crush already came out, but I believe there's probably a one of the Charged Devilsaur as well, just because that has been pretty standard overall.
There's no Devilsaur, but there's a Highmane.
So that's been another point of contention in the pro community, is what is that kind of that last beast slot? And some people have been saying it's Savannah Highmane. Other people want to push some 7 or 8 damage face, depending on whether you got the Prince Keleseth out.
Yeah, but the Gambit has paid off for Envoy to stall his opponent. Carnivorous Cube plus Dark Pact. with the ability to face this manipulator on the following turns.
Yeah, one of these
And then
should live.
Right, and then you get Blood Reaver Gul'dan. I think it's worth actually tapping for a card because you're going to be playing Blood Reaver Gul'dan soon, and you might run into value issues over the long term just because of how much pressure is on the board. But, I mean, Envoy clearly values his own life total. I don't know, you have Blood Reaver Gul'dan to make up that difference. You gain 5 armor plus the hero power and Shroom Brewer. That being said,
it can be a little rough, though. Just because you don't really know what's going to come back from the Gul'dan. And so, in theory, you could technically get a bunch of Voidwalkers, and all this value you thought you were going to get from your 10-drop suddenly becomes just nothing.
Well, I wonder if he can just potentially, like, die. Like, say Mind Control Tech steals a 3/9. Okay, it looks like Monsanto's not going to go for it immediately.
Hunter's Mark taking out one.
He wants to reduce the amount of maximum value the Void Lords can get out, but
I don't know. There's a 40% chance of stealing one. I kind of like those odds.
Or even just 50%. You just kill off one of the Voidwalkers.
Yeah, that too.
And here's another thing, too. By killing off more Voidwalkers, you invest more into your opponent's bad minion pool.
Yeah. So I believe that is, I want to say 6 Voidwalkers dead and 3 Void Lords dead. And so it's going to be rough. He's going to probably trade off these Voidwalkers before he plays the Gul'dan.
Oh.
But that's also something for consideration. Can we set up, I think with the Witchwood Grizzly in the way, it's preventing any sort of defile.
Yeah, I think Blood Reaver Gul'dan's too good to pass up in this position.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe, it would have been nice if we can get like something down to 1 HP, get a defile off before we Hellfire, so it clears the board. Getting 3 Void Lords. That's what you like to see.
Well, now if I'm Monsanto, you can increase your chance to 75%. Actually, no, you can't. Not enough minions will die. Oh, wait, you can if you trade in both of your 4/3s or 4/2.
Yeah, and then technically you have a chance of stealing the now weakened Void Lord, but I'm still all for it.
Monsanto gonna tracking first. Maybe picks up like Deathstalker or Rexar as a way to finish off the game, or have
Another
backup.
Hunter's Mark. That's one of the Void Lords taken care of. Katharina, I think, has another Grizzly she can pull. I think that's it, because we already saw the King Crush. The Savannah Highmane already came out. It's just the second Witchwood Grizzly. These two in.
Yeah, I think this is a Mind Control Tech play here. Everything has taunt, which means nothing kind of has taunt when it matters with minion combat. Downside is your opponent will have layers of taunts with the Void Walkers that come out.
Yeah.
But it's not a big deal. Your opponent clearly hasn't shown a good way to deal with this board. But Hellfire and Defile probably has some ways you can do some crazy board clear here. And then after that, Monsanto's out of gas.
I'm trying to think. So the Void Lord is at 5. So we can run 4 things into that. And we can run the remaining 3 Void Walkers into the Witchwood Grizzly to put it to 5. So we would have a 1, a 2, a 3. And with the Shroom Brewer, that would be 4.
Yeah, there's a clear here.
Yeah, there's definitely
for
a clear.
Sure.
I'm trying to
So many
preferably a clear that involves also getting rid of the Devil Sore out of the egg as well. I don't know if that's an option. Wait, we have the Hero Power. What am I saying? Yeah, we can Hero Power that first. Yeah, with the Hero Power.
I think
on
a Hero
the
Power
egg,
is 0. Okay, so if the thing about the Void Lord is it actually counts as a 1 and a 4 because of the Void Walker that pops out on the other side.
Yes.
So you have 1, 2, 3, 4.
So you don't even need to play the Shroom Brewer.
No, you don't need to play that.
Yeah.
And then you have 5 with the triple trade into the Witchwood Grizzly.
Yeah.
This looks right no matter how you cut it. I'm sure Envoy figured out a way to get the file as well. But oh my gosh, he's out of time. I don't know if this got it.
This is not going to kill the 5/5. I don't think so. It might be one. It might be just enough.
No.
No, it didn't get there.
Okay. I mean, this is good enough, and Monsanto's just going to concede. There definitely was a board clear, though.
Whew. Okay. That was close. But in the end, didn't matter. Monsanto.
there's a
can see-
100% guarantee board clear.
Yeah, definitely.
Either way, the more important thing for Envoy was the macro game plan, which is like setting up the Void Lord taunt wall, running the Hunter out of resources, and even though Monsanto built up a very fearsome board, unable to really capitalize on it. I think one of the big defining moments was like investing things like Carnivorous Cube into the Houndmaster Shaw without any value guaranteed off of it, and that kind of set back a huge portion of his big board that he was able to build initially. Then had to go back for a second wave of essentially an all-in, and then that Void Lord wall of like triple taunts was just like too much to go through.
Yeah, and that also goes to show Envoy just like what he was thinking coming into this tournament.
Yeah.
He has the 1-up Spellbreaker, and it did exactly what it was intended to do and silence the big death rattles.
Yeah.
And it paid off in spades. And so now the only deck left in his lineup that he has to get the win with is this Mechathune Druid. I don't know how he's going to do. It's just I have not seen enough of the deck in general, let alone this current iteration. But at the same time, like you were saying, it's kind of just 28 good Druid cards with Mechathune. So how bad can it really be?
Well, it's still pretty good. I'd say that as long as you play a lot of the core good Druid cards and you stick a win condition in the deck, you should be good to go. Not many people are playing Demonic Project of any capacity, and that's the only way you can really effectively counter it within reason. I think if other people are playing like Nerubi and Unraveler, some like really obscure stuff to stop you from comboing them, then that's not going to really be effective. One thing to consider, too, is that Death Rattle Hunter does give you time, but it doesn't give you that much time. So Envoy needs to really hit some of his important ramp cards, because Nourished into UI is fantastic, but...
He's just a little bit more.
Yeah, looks like Envoy is really unhappy with the Keleseth on 2. And I think maybe Will's onto something. The fact that we keep seeing Keleseth on 2 is confirmation bias that... Your opponent literally always has Keleseth on 2.
Me and Bob were commenting about that earlier. I think we casted, I want to say 6 games in a row where it was Prince on 2 for at least one of the players. And it did a whole lot of work. Giving your entire deck +1/+1's pretty good still.
I mean, if you do hard mulligan for it, it is a reasonable chance that you do get it. But yes, I agree. It does seem to come up fairly often. Oh boy.
Yeah.
I mean, that egg is a multi-layer threat, but you can put out 2 5/5s right now this very instance, which I kind of like if I'm Mr. Monsanto.
Don't have to worry about Spreading Plague just yet, and even if they had Spreading Plague as an option, you're creating 5/5s. So I'm not really too worried about a 1/5 because I can just push right on through. I have the Hunter's Mark with the Candle Shot to push through some of them as well. I want to apply as much pressure as quickly as possible. And my opponent has Hero Powered, and Hero Powered a third time. So I know they don't have that much options. And so I want to do this as quickly as possible. The egg's even a 1/4.
Holds on to the play dead. Does Envoy have Mind Control tech in his deck?
Let me take a look. I don't think he does. He does not.
Okay.
Which makes sense because he is running the Oaken Summons, and you definitely want to guarantee that the Ironwood Golem is going to come out of that.
Yeah, and perhaps Monsanto was saving Spider Bomb playdead as a potential way to answer anything.
You also kind of just...
Shaw.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what Shaw allows you to do is actually use playdead to summon another 5/5, because then you have Spider Bomb with Rush. I think Monsanto still might hold on to it just in case his opponent has some like ridiculous combo with like Spreading Plague and Naturalize, which happens to be in his hand. But even then, you're refilling the board. I am really tempted to squeeze out this extra 5/5. The game might end next turn.
Yeah,
Like,
I think he's just sticking to his game plan because if he wasn't doing it last turn, I don't think he's doing it this turn. And maybe his mindset's kind of at a point where I don't have any other Death Rattle procs in my hand, and if I get something like a Carnivorous Cube or the Katharina, I want to be able to proc it immediately. And so he's holding it back. But at the same time, I want a 5/5 and I want to kill this Druid.
right. Naturalize. What will Monsanto draw? Looking for some high impact cards.
Say Carnivorous Cube's definitely one of them.
Yeah, Cube's probably the biggest
Katharina.
draw.
Oh, Mossy Horror, the one of.
Well, Imagine if he had extra 5/5. That would be game. Well, because he would have hit 5 damage the previous turn.
Yeah.
But there's no way he would have known that. Had he drawn Mazihar any time before that naturalized play, he would have absolutely gone for it, I'd say.
Still pretty good. Gonna be pushing
it's kind of
9
amazing.
damage. Yeah.
Yeah. Not to mention Mazihar got buffed.
Yeah, so it's a 3/8. Going to be pushing 9 damage if he swings with the candle shot as well.
And, you know, Monsanto still has the opportunity to use that play dead, but chooses instead to maybe just Mazihar, pop the egg. No need to get extra greedy at this point because he feels very firmly in control of this game.
So, if I'm Monsanto, maybe I wanted to push enough damage to make sure my opponent was dead if he were to innervate UI. But I think at this point, well, it's too late now because the egg's dead. But I don't think he's too worried because he has so much gas still in hand that he's probably going to get there regardless.
Yeah, you go if your opponent plays Ultimate Infestation, he's dead on board.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Wait,
so
no.
it goes to 12.
He kills a 5, trades into the 3/3, and so he's going to go to 12, and my opponent has 11 damage.
Because Monsanto didn't attack last turn.
Yeah. So not swinging with the candle shot ended up.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
in all fairness, too, Druid has so many ways to gain armor that you can't 100% be sure. But this gives Envoy the ability to innervate the Ultimate Infestation.
And now the Druid with all these extra cards, just going to increase the likelihood that he's going to have an answer, gain more armor, have more board clears.
Yeah. I mean, he has 11 damage. And he is 1 damage off lethal.
So a Katharina potential lethal if you were to pull the King Crush. But right now, see Spider Bomb.
I mean, I like Monsanto a lot, but I kind of hope he loses this game because of the 1 damage off thing. It's not necessarily anything against him. It's just I really like people getting punished for like, oh, I could have squeezed 1 more extra damage when it's like, you know, no reason not to type thing. But at the same time, I can understand Monsanto's logic where it's like, well, he's most likely going to trade. I wanted to maximize my value. Last game, I was overzealous with my resources, and I ended up burning out, and I didn't have the ability to actually go long because I all-in super fast. So he's thinking about the long term. But the long term is where Envoy's deck actually flourishes because he now has resources to be defensive and maybe stall for this Mecha'thun.
And it wasn't just the 1 damage with the candle shot either. It's also a conscious decision to save this play dead on the egg. And he had about 3 turns in this game where he could have made another 5/5, pushed another 10 damage.
I mean, I would have even liked a swing on the weapon on the Arcane Tyrant.
Yeah,
preemptively. But either way, this is still a tough spot for Envoy.
Coin out that hero power. I like that.
Well, here's another thing. He had that opportunity to coin hero power previous turn as well, but he saved it just in case he got Katharina.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those things where, like, if this doesn't end up panning out, I wonder how much that'll sting.
Malfurion, I don't think is enough on its own.
Jeez. Oh, wait. Is that his second Ironwood Golem? Because I was thinking about Oaken Summons first and then. But he gains 1 less armor this way. I think he still has another 1 in the deck.
He does,
okay.
yes.
And then he can Wrath 4/3. This is a pretty big swing in terms of life gain. Just gains 16 life.
Absolutely insane. Druid still has plenty of armor. Again, that still hasn't changed no matter what the archetype is.
But this is why Monsanto kept Spider Bomb, so he can press in for the extra damage.
Yeah.
So Spider Bomb, Tailscale Stalker, plus 11.
King Crush just picked up as well. That's going to be another 9 damage.
Yep.
I wonder.
All right. Maybe it's deciding to trade in with the 5/5 instead of using the Spider Bomb, but I don't know. What else is the Spider Bomb killing at this point?
The thing about the Spider Bomb development is it lets him push damage while also developing on the board. Oh, this is interesting. Tailscale Stalker is going to be saved because he doesn't want to extend to Spreading Plague. That makes a lot of sense.
Force out the Spreading Plague this turn. Hopefully be able to push through it and get the King Crush to hit face. But if he does go for the Spreading Plague, I don't think he's going to have the option to killing the Spider Bomb on board. Unless he plays the Ironwood Golem as well. Branching Pass can gain 12. You can't combo that with the Malfurion, and I want this Malfurion down ASAP.
So if you gain 3 life plus 8, goes up to 15. He's effectively at 20. He's not dead yet. Oh my gosh. This is where having that lack of charged Devilsaur
Really going to come back to haunt
is
them.
potentially going to haunt Monsanto. Granted, he's a lot better against some of those slow control decks because he has that high main instead. Monsanto thinking about, should he play this Terrascale Stalker, try to get that extra damage in right now.
Feels so weird having to do that, though, when you have King Crush and Katharina in your hand. They're both playable. I really do not want to float 6 mana just to prop a Spider Bomb. So I kind of want to play Katharina, get a big boy out, and I don't think damage this turn is super crucial because my opponent has so many cards. I think I just need to end the game with big minions.
I kind of like just playing King Crush also because it just gives the ability. Like first of all, your opponent has to answer it. Second of all, if you pick up a Carnivorous Cube, you have Terrascale Stalker as well to just like end the game right there. And also, the board size is still relatively the same for Spreading Plague, but you got a more expensive minion out of your hand.
Candle Shot, putting him down to 6.
Yeah, either way, this is still a really powerful board for Envoy.
Ironwood Golem, just going to die to the Spider Bomb. Swipe isn't enough to clear board. Spreading Plague looks like it's going to be his only option.
Yep,
maybe he can
Plague.
put a Swipe in first. Or maybe he goes for the Spreading Vengeance.
My thoughts are
I think I like
Buffalo's up.
Swipe or Wrath after. Oh, interesting. He's going to Wrath the Spider Bomb.
Because it doesn't matter whether he does it before or after, because he's going to have 3 Beetles regardless. Armor up.
Oh, this is... He's almost dead.
Oh, yeah.
So close.
Katharina, still only going to summon a Grizzly or a Savannah High Main. King Crush can't go face this turn.
Yeah, and I think Monsanto has been waiting for that Spreading Plague number 2.
Yeah.
Sees it.
Feels a lot better about going wide on board. Gonna push through all these. Gonna leave a 1-2 up.
Okay, Envoy concedes.
Hopping out of here.
I couldn't find a way out. I think specifically the amount of pressure that was put on him from the Hunter was fine. And I think that's why ultimately Monsanto felt like he was in control, even though, yeah, he kind of had an opportunity to set up like a 2-turn lethal a few times. But in the end, I think with Druid armor shenanigans, you can't ever be blamed for being not zealous enough, right?
I think that's what it's gonna come down to.
Yeah, most likely. So here we go. Envoy keeping Malfurion the Pestilent, and I think that's a nod to the fact that Monsanto has a burst-heavy deck with that Faceless Manipulator instead of the Alexstrasza. So the earlier Envoy can get that armor gain, the easier it is for him to be outside of max damage potential. The only downside is the rest of his hand looks pretty ugly, while Monsanto picks up what is many considered to be the nuts. All he needs is one Ultimate Infestation, and Envoy is going to be stuck picking up the pieces.
Yeah, this is just absolutely insane start from Monsanto. I have seen this kind of start fail in the past because they are so psyched about the ramp that they don't consider drawing with the second Nourish, and so they end up running out of gas. But I like the Malfurion keep from Envoy. That kind of is a throwback to the old days of Warrior versus Freeze Mage, where you would keep Justicar Trueheart in your opening hand just to get that guaranteed tank up on 6.
Oh my gosh, Envoy's already unhappy, but wait, there's more.
We have Nourish Arcane Tyrant, and that Nourish is going to go straight into a Lich King the following turn.
I mean, there's not even much to think about from Monsanto's side.
Yeah, Arcane Tyrant coming down, going to start applying pressure, but even more relevant, this Lich King going to come down on turn 4. Nourish for draw afterwards. Very likely going to hit a very crucial part of his combo. Probably going to hit a UI. And things are looking just gravy for Monsanto. Envoy drawing with Branching Pass. His hand's already almost full just because he has had nothing to play. Fortunately, he can upgrade the Spellstone to kill the Tyrant, but
Yeah.
he does not have an answer for this Lich King.
Also, that's part of the problem. By spending removal onto this Tyrant, he's hoping that Monsanto has nothing but air on 9 mana, and that couldn't be farther from the truth. Lich King's one of the best legendaries in the game. And Envoy has no clean way to answer it.
Even if he had the mana with the Innervate swipe, Wrath is going to be 1 short.
Okay, what he could do... Okay, I think he's just going to go and draw cards.
Thought he might Innervate out the Malfurion,
Yeah.
throw some Poison Beetles out there, but...
That's kind of what I was thinking. But even then, that's like a really sketchy play.
Yeah, just because there's so many different punishes. There's between Spellstone, swipes, and everything else.
Yeah,
Army of the Dead. Probably the worst one for the Malygos Druid. Just
yeah,
because
it's not many minions in the deck, huh?
I think of the 30 cards, I think only about 5 of them are minions. And so statistically, this is just a get closer to fatigue card and not gain any benefit. Naturalize in the hand. Was worried he was considering, naturalizing his own Lich King just to mill some cards from Envoy's side. But, Lich King's just a good card to keep around.
Okay, so Ferocious Howl... Ugh, that's ugly. I think you go for the Malfurion stuff. But he had that option the previous turn, and now his opponent's drawn more cards going into the turn where they could have played Ultimate Infestation, and now instead Envoy is just playing defense with the Scared Beetles. And now Monsanto has free reign again with this Lich King.
Yeah, I'm looking at Envoy's list right now. I think he was hesitant to use the second Innervate because I think it's his win condition, because he does not have the Florist to discount the Mechathune.
Oh, you're right.
And so he needs to save the second Innervate for that Naturalize.
That's a good point. Innervate Naturalize is always on rest because you have to have a way to kill off your own Mechathune for the win condition. It's a good point.
Yeah, this just comes back to, I think, the list that he ended up using for the tournament, because there have been lists in the past where they have used the Voodoo Doll Moonfire. There have been lists, like I said, with the Pyromancers and Barkskin. There are so many different variants of this list. But unfortunately, the one he went with, it's a 3-card combo, and you need to say how much he would like to use this a Naturalize. Not that he has one. Use a Naturalize on this Lich King. He needs to save it.
Well, the good news is Monsanto doesn't have any real good offensive options from the Lich King cards. You can Spellstone, Wrath, and basically pass, and hope that no damage can truly be done. And one thing, too, about Monsanto's hands, things like Army of the Dead take up space. So if he picks up Ultimate Infestation, he's not playing that anytime soon, unless he's one to burn cards.
Yeah, same with Obliterate as well, just because it is very hard for Monsanto to find a target against Envoy, because
Right.
if he has a minion that's worth obliterating, it's probably the Mechathune, and it's also Envoy's turn, and also you're dead.
I mean, imagine a scenario where like Monsanto has only a few cards remaining but still hasn't drawn Malygos. Army of the Dead has used there.
Yep,
But
6
not
mana
much
Malygos,
else
yeah.
outside of that.
Unfortunately, the Army of the Dead, even if it were to pull the Malygos, wouldn't change the Flippiness Floop, and so that would still just be
Right.
a 3-4 that does a whole lot of nothing.
Wow, I haven't seen a Lich King be this ineffective with 3 cards being generated in quite some time.
To be fair, it did push 16 damage, but just ripping it right now, didn't summon a single card. So that was both Branching Pass. That was a Naturalize. That was a Ferocious Howl.
Oh my
and
god.
I believe
This a blue-black deck? Oh my god, that was pretty funny. Sorry.
That's good.
I don't mean to be laughing at the players.
We are 5 steps closer to that Malygos now. Didn't burn the Twig of the World Tree as well, so we're not...
Oh man.
Like, to be fair, we don't really care about Branching Pass because armor is irrelevant in this matchup, and we already have a pretty full hand. That's a real good pickup.
Yeah, that is really nice.
Obliterate has some play now. Arcane Tyrant's just getting him out of the hand so we can play UI next turn.
Yeah. And, you know, in hindsight, I think you definitely made some really good points here, Will. I think none of the important cards were destroyed. And Monsanto needs to find a way to get closer to his Malygos or his Twig. to try and end the game, because Envoy has a lot of armor gain now that Malfurion and the Pestilence online and the Lich King has been dealt with, and more importantly, Monsanto doesn't have anything meaningful. Had he picked up Anti-Magic Shell, or had he picked up other high impact cards like Frostmourne, I think this game would have been very different.
Literally any other one. It's like Death and Decay pushes damage, Frostmourne pushes damage, and also summons stuff like these Arcane Tyrants if you wanted to kill him with that. Even Death Coils damage. Army of the Dead Obliterate is just oof. Forbiddenous Flute, still a Forbiddenous Flute. Faceless Manipulator has no targets. Spreading Plague feels terrible. Monsanto had one of the most incredible Druid starts I've ever seen, and it just fell flat so quickly.
It fizzled like crazy. Spreading Plague can help stall and Obliterate, like you mentioned.
Yeah, this is about the one opportunity in the entire game I think that's going to be even an option.
Part of the reason why that Nourish Draw was so good allowed Envoy to also dump his hand so that he can play Ultimate Infestation, his only copy. And I feel like with each passing turn, now that Monsanto doesn't actually have a real offensive game plan, I think Envoy is in pretty good position to close this one out. UI looks really good as long as Envoy does not burn to naturalize.
Yeah, I was about to say, because he already used one Innervate on to tempo out the Malfurion, the second Innervate,
there you go.
Super important. There's the naturalize, so he has the combo, so it is pretty irrelevant what he burns from here. 2 Wraths, and as far as cards to be stuck in the hand, this is pretty good. Because we have the Oaken Summons to pull stuff out of the deck. We have Ferocious Howl, which is cheap cycle. We have Wrath, which is more cheap cycle. So we have a lot of really good stuff to play.
Yeah, well, I mean, that second naturalize is something that Monsanto is probably happy to see, but unless he's able to generate a big enough threat to warrant a second naturalize, I don't think that's going to be the case. And Envoy's deck is outfitted with a lot of removal with Starfall and the Wraths. So this Twig of the Will Tree has 5 turns for Monsanto, but I think Envoy is going to get to the bottom of his deck a little bit quicker than that, because he has 2 Wraths for Cycle now.
Yes, Cycle, Ironwood Golem,
massive.
Oaken Summons, Ferocious Howl, just everything you could possibly want. And I think, just like you said, Monsanto has about a 5-turn clock right now, and Envoy looking to get it done even before then.
Yeah, he can draw. I mean, that swipe's not that important. I think what's important is these cycles. So Ferocious Howl is good.
Gains a lot of armor, gains 10. Ooh. Pulls the second Ironwood Golem, so now Oaken Summons won't thin the deck.
Yeah, that's something that I feel like happens fairly often. I actually would like to Wrath also the Ironwood Golem, because you need the Ironwood Golem to die.
Yes.
That's like part of the downside of like the build Envoy has. He has a lot of situational cards like Spreading Plague. Well, I mean, in this matchup.
Yeah.
That he needs to also die. So wrathing your own minion does have its own merits, so that way it weakens it. Otherwise, Mech-Cthulhu will just be a 10-10, and if your opponent saves the naturalize for that, you can't ever play Mech-Cthulhu. And Malygos now comes into the hand. So, I mean, this is starting to heat up, you know? Like, can Monsanto get his combo done fast enough? Does he even want to kill his opponent's Ironwood Golem? Like, he has to attack, but he needs to attack into a taunt minion.
Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. He wants to attack into the Ironwood Golem because he needs this twig to activate, and if he swings into it, Starfall targeting to 5 damage to a minion can kill the Ironwood Golem. Wrath can kill the Arcane Tyrant. Spreading Plagues, you don't mind playing them for nothing.
Hold on, 1 second, Will.
Okay.
Can Monsanto just play Malygos on the board, considering one naturalize has been used? His opponent uses a second naturalize. He can't win with the Mech-Cthulhu combo anymore.
Yeah, he saw the second one burn, and so I really like this. You called it perfectly. And Spellstone going to clear off board.
And he still has Malygos. I mean, the only other minion I think in his deck that he could play would be Dream Petal Florist, and he's just going to wait on that because it's not very useful.
He's going to have 3 Malygoses. He draws any spell, and that's just so much damage.
Right.
And Envoy just can't answer this. The Starfall, Wrath, Hero Power is going to be 1 short.
Yes.
And, Spreading Blade can make 1/1/5. We can't use the Naturalize.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's so scary, but you got it. Okay, so there's 2 choices here for Envoy. 1, he could play into his Mech-Cthulhu win condition because he is fairly close to the end of his deck. Or 2, he just naturalizes and hopes that Mech-Cthulhu will eventually die a natural death. Which, nothing about Mech-Cthulhu is organic in terms of his design.
My thoughts
Literally.
are
Yes.
faint.
And that's gonna be
Spreading-
10 damage.
By playing Spreading Plague, you also force your opponent to like generate like a swipe. The only problem is that you're not dealing with Malagos, so if he faceless and swipes, now you have 2 412s to deal with, and I think that just might be too much pressure. So if you naturalize now, you stop him. This is tough. There's another. Actually, hold on. There was the third play, which is weakening the Malagos, like you said. You Starfall it, you like Wrath it down, blah blah blah. So that becomes a 4/1. So if you Malagos,
Oh yeah, so the
faceless
faceless becomes a lot weaker.
It becomes way weaker.
I think how much damage? So with the faceless and the Malagos, UI off the top would do 15. Swipe would do a 19. No wait, UI would do 20. Swipe would do 19, and Moonfire would do 16. I've seen some wacky armor totals from Druid, but I don't think any Druid can survive that much.
Well, he doesn't have the twig available to him, so
Yeah, he wouldn't have done it all in the same turn, but
yeah, his max damage with Swipe, Moonfire, and Faceless was 14 plus 11, so 25. He would have been fine.
Starfall, Spreading Plagues. So this is the part where Mechathune Druid kind of historically has struggled, where you
Right.
have a bunch of these clunky answers to what you assume would be played into aggro decks.
No,
And
yeah.
but it's just so hard to get him out of the hands so you can activate the Mechathune. And so it's going to be kind of one at a time, just Spreading Plague, pass, for nothing. Spreading Plague, pass, for nothing. Starfall, 2 damage to an empty board. And so it's just really hard, and all the while, Monsanto's going to be hitting this twig in, trying to find a win condition with this Phlebinus Flute Malagos.
Yeah.
2 turns remaining.
Well, so here's another thing that Monsanto can do.
I'm almost out of cards.
I was thinking Monsanto can stall the game and then faceless his opponent's Mechathune because Mechathune can't die anymore. And then Monsanto can kill his own Mechathune and win the game, but he needs to dump his hand to do so. So is it beneficial to UI in this spot?
Does he
No,
have...
he accelerates too much to fatigue. This is a kind of a weird game
Oh.
at this point, man.
This is just another reason why Faceless is just good in the Mali Druid.
Right.
It just has this alternate win condition. Does Monsanto have another Naturalize in the deck?
I think one of them was destroyed with the Army of the Dead, so actually I think he has no more
yeah.
naturalizers left.
Oh, that would have been so cool. Faceless Innervate, Naturalize for the Game 5 win against the Mechathune Druid.
Yeah.
Ugh. Would have been a sight to see. Still have the Army of the Dead if you wanted to get to that fatigue condition faster. too.
Right. So the thing about if he does want that condition is that he has to get Ultimate Infestation out of his hand. The problem is then Envoy can play the slow fatigue game of Keep Away because he's so far ahead with life totals and
Yeah.
the Malfurion hero power. So Monsanto is stuck in a pretty bad spot, and the moment he plays Arcane Tyrant means that
Malagos is gone.
his Malagos is officially dead. Which I don't know. Here's another thing too. The Twig, what is he gonna do with that mana? I don't know. This is such a weird game.
It's...
Okay.
If he just waited one more turn, he could have gotten a huge Malagos turn off. But Dan, it sounds like you have an idea. What's going on?
Well, by playing the Arcane Tyrant, Envoy gives a way for his minions to die.
Uh-huh.
So that was something that I think was a really big revelation.
My thoughts
And Envoy now can cycle his Wild Growth, which I think is also really big. But he's drawing 2 cards deeper to fatigue by doing so. This is getting really, really strange. Envoy cannot play Mechathune until he knows for sure it's going to be his last card either, because then Monsanto can remove the minion and then play Keep Away, because Envoy does not have a way to catch up in fatigue because he lost his Naturalize. So this is what's going to happen. One of 3 things, in my opinion, is going to happen. Either Envoy pulls off the Mechathune in some capacity and Monsanto loses. Envoy plays Mechathune too early or doesn't get the combo off and Monsanto wins through fatigue. Or Monsanto overextends with his resources and Envoy wins the fatigue game because he's just so far ahead in life total. Because I don't think Monsanto's hand gives him the ability to play into the Mechathune faceless because he has 2 ultimate infestations. In fact, Maybe it was better for him to play Army of the Dead to get rid of his deck to do that. But I don't know. This is such uncharted waters that I myself am probably saying the worst possible lines out there.
Then I will say the opposite. The Ironwood Golem, the Mechathon, while he is very far ahead on life, he is starting to fatigue, and that adds up real quickly, especially when part of his game plan to get this Mechathon online involves 2 excess manas.
That's a really good point, because Monsanto could win by pressuring the life total from Envoy, because he should know what's left in Envoy's deck, which is basically what we see right here. 1 Starfall is the only removal left that Envoy has.
So we have the Arcane Tyrant. We can faceless the Arcane Tyrant to try to apply pressure. The swipe is never getting any better since the Malagos left. Even though we're technically kind of clearing off Envoy's board, which is what he wants, we need to apply as much pressure as possible. So the Arcane Tyrant needs to hit face. Twig needs to hit face. This Arcane Tyrant in the hand and the Faceless Manipulator need to hit face.
Oh my gosh. So Envoy's going to draw twice, and he's going to play his entire hand.
2 damage.
And now
3 damage.
The onus is on Monsanto to deal with this 10-10 Mechathon. Like, is Monsanto supposed to burn the remains of his deck so that Faceless becomes relevant? I don't think he has enough mana to spend.
Yeah, it's 2 Ultimate Infestations, and he has 1 card left in the deck. So the first Ultimate Infestation is going to do, I believe, 10 damage to him through fatigue. And then the second one's going to just likely kill him. And so I don't think the Mechathon is even an option.
Okay. So what about snapping the Twig? So you can snap the Twig, and the moment he... Okay, so he can dump the rest of his deck right now. Hold on. So what the ultimate way for Monsanto to finish this is to dump the rest of his deck, faceless, and then double UI his own Mechathon to force a tie, assuming that doesn't kill him in fatigue, then he wins. But he has to dump the rest of his deck. He needs to, like, Army of the Dead now, dump the rest of his deck, and then play like the Arcane Tyrant. He doesn't. That Dream Petal Florist is messing up everything. It's too expensive. Actually,
+7. He has the Innervate, so he can Innervate out the Arcane Tyrant, snap the Twig. He probably wants to UI before he Armies of the Dead.
Oh yeah, and the Faceless Manipulator discounts now too, so that helps.
Helps a little bit.
And Monsanto has 1 card remaining in the deck, by the way.
Wait, no. It's good. He can Faceless for 0, UI, snap the Twig, UI.
Right.
So all he has to do is get rid of the Army of the Dead and whatever's left in his deck.
Yes.
It's so good.
And Monsanto will be taking unholy amounts of damage. And that's his last card's Malfurion, so we can stall. So now it's a math game. This is a 100% solvable scenario for Monsanto.
But Malfurion's going to make 2 creatures.
Well, it's 1/5 taunts. You can't get past that very easily.
I get it. Ugh.
And then the 1/5 taunts can choose when they trade into the Mechathon. So Monsanto should be playing this and summoning. In fact, I think he should snap his Twig and play Army of the Dead as well, right? Because then... No, he needs to play WI. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa, this is getting so weird.
I don't know if the WI is enough to get the win. I think it'll get the draw, but I don't think he's going to have enough health because of the fatigue is going to be so insane by that point.
He takes, I think, is it 45 damage or is it 55 damage? One or the other, he's going to be taking that in Ultimate Infestation damage next turn.
I know if it's your first point of fatigue damage and you play Ultimate Infestation, it's 15.
He snapped a Twig.
Oh no!
Faceless. On the 1/5? Oh, he's going for pressure! That was his win condition the entire time.
I'm sad.
Wait, why did he snap the Twig, though? Because he had 10 mana. Okay, whatever. Game is over. And because there's too many 1/5 taunts, Envoy can't kill off his Mechathon.